We hear so much about amazing new drugs, but what's behind them? What really makes them work?
Right.
Today, we're diving into something fundamental, the global market for biotherapeutics cell line development. This is, well, it's the engine room, isn't it? Creating the cell lines that produce therapeutic proteins, antibodies, vaccines, all the cutting edge stuff.
Exactly that. It's foundational.
Yeah.
And the sheer size and the projected growth of this market, it just underlines how vital it is.
Yeah.
We're basing this discussion on the Global Biotherapeutic Cell Line Development Market Report 2025.
Hmm.
It gives a really compelling look at where we are now and, importantly, where things seem to be headed.
And those numbers, they really jump out at you. The report suggests the global market hits nearly 9.5 billion US dollars in 2025.
9.5 billion, yeah.
But then the projection to 2033, it leaps to almost $25 billion. That's huge. It works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of almost 13%. And just to clarify for you listening, CAGR is like the average growth each year. So nearly 13% every single year. That's some serious momentum.
It really is, and it reflects how much we're relying on these biotherapeutics now for all sorts of diseases. These aren't your typical pills.
Right.
Biologics, as they're called, are complex, derived from living systems.
Right.
And you absolutely need stable, efficient cell lines to make them consistently and reliably.
So for you listening, getting a handle on this market is like getting a sneak peek into the future of medicine. The report points to a big driver: more chronic diseases.
Yeah, that's a key factor.
Diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions. As these increase, so does the demand for these advanced biologic treatments. So our goal today is basically to unpack this report, pull out the key trends, see where the growth is happening geographically, look at the tech shifts, really get under the hood.
Okay, let's start with that overall picture again. You mentioned the nearly $9.5 billion for 2025.
Yeah.
And that impressive 12.80% CAGR through to 2033. The report uses 2024 as its base year, using data from 2021 up to 2024 to build those forecasts. So it gives us a pretty solid foundation.
Okay, solid foundation, big growth. Now, where is this actually happening, geographically speaking? The report says North America's got the biggest slice right now.
That's right, over 37% of the global market.
Wow. What's that in dollar terms?
For 2025, North America is looking at about $3.5 billion. And it's projected to grow at around 11.5% annually through 2033.
Okay.
Inside North America, the U.S. is, well, powerhouse.
Yeah.
$2.76 billion in 2025, growing at 11.3%. And interestingly, the report links some of that growth to progress in gene editing.
Ah, gene editing, like CRISPR and so on.
Exactly, making those really precise tweaks to the cell's DNA to make them, better biological factories, more efficient, better yields.
Makes sense. We hear so much about gene editing's potential. What about Canada and Mexico? Are they playing a significant role too?
Oh, absolutely. Canada's estimated at $420 million for 2025, and actually growing a bit faster, 12.3% annually. The report suggests that's partly due to rising genetic disorders needing new therapies.
Right.
And Mexico, around $318 million in 2025, growing at a solid 12% per year. So, yeah, the U.S. leads, but Canada and Mexico are definitely important parts of that North American picture.
Okay, so North America is the current leader. What about Europe? Usually a strong player in biotech.
Yep, Europe's number 2. Holds over 29% of the market globally. That translates to about $2.74 billion in 2025, with projected growth of 11.8% a year.
Okay, pretty close to North America's growth rate.
Very close. And within Europe, you've got several key countries really pushing things forward.
Such as? Which ones stand out?
Well, the UK is significant. About $461 million market in 2025, growing strong at 12.6% annually. The report mentions a vibrant scene with lots of biotech startups there.
Interesting.
Then there's Germany, even bigger at $543 million in 2025, growing at 12%. That's partly fueled by work in novel cancer immunotherapies.
Right.
And Russia's also a substantial market, around $425 million in 2025, with a 10.8% CAGR.
So it sounds like it's quite spread out across Europe, quite active. Any others worth mentioning?
Definitely. France, Italy, Spain, they're all in that $225 to $252 million range for 2025, with growth rates around 11%. And even smaller markets, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they show healthy TGRs too, 11, 12%.
Right.
And the rest of Europe combined, still a big chunk, about $384 million in 2025, growing at 10.5%. So yeah, it's a very dynamic region overall.
Okay, North America, Europe, the established players. But I keep hearing about Asia-Pacific APAC booming in lots of tech sectors. How does it look for cell line development?
You're right to ask. APAC holds about 24% of the market currently, so roughly $2.27 billion in 2025.
Okay, so smaller than Europe for now.
For now, yes. But here's the kicker. The projected CAGR is 15.7% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, 15.7, that's significantly higher than North America or Europe.
It's the highest growth rate of any region. It signals a potentially massive expansion is underway there. For anyone listening who's involved in, say, global health supply chains or investment, that rapid APAC growth suggests R&D and manufacturing capabilities are really scaling up fast. Could be a big shift.
That's a huge trajectory. Which countries are driving that APAC surge?
China is a major engine, a market size of $953 million in 2025, growing at 15.2% annually. Cancer immunotherapy development is a big factor there.
Right.
But the fastest growth within APAC is India. Projected CGR of 17.6%.
17.6%.
Yeah. Starting from a smaller base, $227 million in 2025, but incredible growth potential. Japan and South Korea are also key players, key GRs of 14.2% and 14.8% respectively.
Okay.
South Korea's growth, for instance, is linked to increasing use of cell-based assays in drug discovery, using live cells to test drugs early on.
Got it. So APAC is the one to watch for rapid growth. What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, are they in the mix?
They are, though, with smaller market shares currently. South America holds just over 3.8%, about $359 million in 2025, but growing at a healthy 13.2% AGR.
Still strong growth.
Yes. Brazil leads there, $153 million market in 2025, 13.8% growth, also seeing uptake in gene editing like CRISPR. Argentina is growing even faster, 14.1% AGR from a $60 million base, linked to progress in cell culture media, the food for the cells, essentially.
Okay. And the Middle East and Africa?
The Middle East is around 4% market share, $378 million in 2025 with a 13.3% AGR. Saudi Arabia is key, $133 million market, 13.6% growth, driven by demand for recombinant proteins.
Right.
The UAE is also notable, $77 million market, 15.8% growth. Africa has the smallest share for now, about 2.2%, $208 million in 2025, growing at 8.8%. South Africa leads there, $73 million, 9.7% CGR. And Nigeria, $16 million, 9.0% CGR, showing growth linked to protein production needs.
It's really interesting hearing the specific nuances, gene editing here, startups there, immunotherapy somewhere else. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The report breaks things down by the actual processes involved, right? And how companies choose to do the development. What are the takeaways there?
Yeah, looking at the process itself, transfection and selection seems to be the dominant segment right now.
Transfection, that's getting the DNA blueprint into the cell.
Exactly. Getting the genetic instructions into the host cells so
Yeah.
they know what therapeutic protein to make. There are different methods, lipofection, electroporation, using viruses.
Okay.
And just to show how crucial this step is, Sartorius AG bought Polyplus Transfection SA back in March 2023 for $2.6 billion.
2.6 billion. Wow. Okay, so that really highlights the value of getting that first step right.
Definitely.
What about the fastest growing process?
That seems to be single-cell cloning. This is all about isolating the best performing individual cells and making sure you grow a population that's genetically identical and stable.
Like finding the star employee and cloning them. Sort of. It ensures consistency. You need that reliable, reproducible process to guarantee the quality and effectiveness of the final biotherapeutic drug. So its rapid growth shows this real push for precision and reliability in manufacturing.
Okay, so transfection is fundamental, single-cell cloning is about precision and is growing fast. Now, how do companies actually manage this work? Do they do it themselves or farm it out?
Well, according to the report, the outsource option holds the largest market share currently.
Ah, so most companies are hiring specialists.
It looks that way. Especially perhaps smaller companies or those needing specific expertise, they partner with specialized service providers. Contract development and manufacturing organizations, or CDMOs, are a big part of this.
Right, CDMOs. That makes sense. Access, expertise, maybe lower upfront investment. But the report also said the in-house segment is growing rapidly too. Why would companies choose to do it themselves if outsourcing is so common? Good question. There are definitely advantages to keeping it in-house. You get much greater control over the whole process. You can really optimize the cell line for your specific drug, fine-tune it for yield, stability, quality attributes.
Okay, total control.
And the other big one is intellectual property. Keeping the development internal can offer better IP protection and helps retain that critical know-how within the company itself.
Right, control and protecting your secrets. definitely key in a competitive field. Okay, let's zoom out again. What are the big forces driving this whole market forward? And are there any breaks, any potential roadblocks?
The report points to a few key drivers. One is simply the rising investment going into biopharmaceuticals generally. More funding means more R&D, including this essential cell line work.
Makes sense.
Another is the growing demand for biologics overall. They're becoming standard treatments for so many conditions.
Yeah.
And finally, there's the push towards personalized medicine. This requires more specialized, maybe even patient-specific, cell line development, adding another layer of demand.
Okay, investment, demand, personalization. Powerful drivers. What about the challenges, the restraints?
Two main ones highlighted. First, the sheer complexity of cell line engineering. It's not easy. Requires deep expertise, advanced tech. It can be a real hurdle.
High barrier to entry then.
Exactly. And related to that is the cost. Developing these high-performing, stable cell lines is expensive. That can be a significant restraint, especially for smaller biotech firms.
Complexity and cost. Understood. What about major trends shaping the future here?
Two interesting trends mentioned. First, the rise of biosimilars. These are like generic versions of biologic drugs.
Right.
Developing biosimilars still requires robust cell line development, so their growth adds fuel to the overall market. Second is the continued expansion of those CDMOs we mentioned.
The outsourcers.
Yeah. Their growth makes it easier for more companies to access cell line development services, which supports the whole ecosystem, especially the outsourcing segment.
So biosimilars boost demand, CDMOs boost the supply of services. It makes sense. Okay, final stretch. Who are the big players? Who's dominating this space?
It's described as highly competitive. You've got big global names alongside more specialized regional companies.
Yeah.
The report lists names like Fiona Bio, Becton Dickinson, Boehringer Ingelheim, Catalent, Lonza, EMD Millipore, Partech, Probiogen, Solexis, Sigma Aldrich.
Okay, some familiar names there from the broader life sciences world.
Exactly. They often lead because they have strong portfolios, global reach, and invest heavily in R&D and innovation.
Yeah?
The report does mention, that more competitor details are behind a paywall.
Right, standard practice. Now, you mentioned acquisitions earlier. The report highlighted a couple of recent big ones.
Yes, and they're quite telling. Bristol Myers Squibb bought 270 Bio in March 2025 for about $286 million. 270 Bio focuses on cancer cell therapy.
So BMS strengthening its cell therapy arm.
Precisely, especially in CAR-T therapies.
Altar.
And then Roche announced a deal in December 2024 to acquire Biotherapeutics, potentially up to $1.5 billion.
Whoa, big number.
Yeah. Poseida also works on CRT, and Roche is looking to boost its pipeline in oncology, immunology, neurology using Poseida's tech. These deals really show the strategic value placed on cell line development expertise and advanced cell therapy capabilities. Lots of investment, lots of consolidation happening.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've looked at a market biotherapeutics cell line development that's not just large, but set for really significant growth, hitting almost $25 billion by 2033.
Driven by chronic diseases, biopharma investment, demand for biologics.
Right. North America leads currently, but APAC, particularly China and India, is growing incredibly fast.
The fastest globally, yeah.
We saw key processes like transfection are foundational, while things like single-cell cloning are advancing rapidly for quality. And companies choose between outsourcing, which is dominant, and a growing trend of in-house development for control and IP reasons.
Yep, balancing cost, complexity, control.
And the whole thing is playing out in a competitive landscape with major players making big acquisition moves, underlining just how vital this field is.
That sums it up nicely. It really shines a light on a critical, maybe sometimes overlooked part of developing modern medicines.
Absolutely. And it leaves us thinking, doesn't it? With all this rapid advancement and huge investment, what does it mean for actually getting these sophisticated therapies to patients? Issues of access, cost.
That's a crucial question.
And with APAC growing so fast, particularly China and India, how might that shift the whole global center of gravity for biopharma innovation over the next decade? Definitely something to keep an eye on.